Okay, so uh, you know that crazy headline that's been making the rounds?
Yeah, which one?
The one about AI taking over all the jobs by 2030?
Oh, right, right. Yeah, world shocked and all that.
Exactly. World shocked. Will AI replace all jobs by 2030? X365.ai reveals. It's like, whoa, hold on a sec. Is my job really going to vanish in just a few years because of some, super smart robots or something? That's what we're digging into today.
It's a question on a lot of people's minds these days, for sure. I mean, it's a big deal. This whole AI thing, how it could change the job market. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we're really trying to unpack here, looking at what X365.ai has to say about
Yeah,
it.
X365.ai, they're the company that's building all this advanced AI stuff, so they're kind of like right in the thick of it.
Exactly. They're seeing things firsthand, so it's not just speculation. We're going based on their actual observations and research.
Yeah, it's like getting a sneak peek into the future, right? So today we're going to look at what X365.ai is saying about how AI is already changing jobs, what might happen by 2030, and then like how do we deal with this? What can people do? And what does it mean for like you and me,
Yeah,
just everyday folks?
absolutely. We'll try to cut through all the noise and hype and really get to the heart of the matter.
Okay, so first, let's talk about what's happening right now. AI is already out there, right? It's not just some sci-fi thing anymore.
Yeah, it's already changing the job scene in a lot of ways and in industries you might not even realize. And it's going way beyond just like replacing factory workers with robots.
Right, it's getting smarter and more capable all the time.
Absolutely. Think about it. Even something as simple as your phone predicting what word you're going to type next, that's AI right there in your pocket.
Oh, wow, I never thought about it like that. It's learning from you every time you use it. But let's talk about some bigger examples, things X365.ai is seeing that are already having a real impact. One of the big ones is self-driving trucks. Companies like Waymo are working on that, and it's not just some experiment, it's happening right now in places like Texas.
And that's going to change things big time for truck drivers, right? I mean, that's their livelihood.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. They're on the front lines of this shift, and it makes you realize that any job where you're doing predictable, like rule-based tasks, those are the ones that are most at risk.
So it's not just about physical jobs. It's any job where the work is kind of repetitive, even if it's mental work. And
Exactly.
it makes me think about those self-checkout lanes at the grocery store. Like, I use those all the time.
Me too. It's so convenient. But that's AI at work too. And the more they improve those systems, the fewer cashiers they're going to need. Places like Walmart are already seeing this trend.
And what about customer service? I feel like I talk to a bot half the time I call somewhere.
Yeah, that's not your imagination. X365.ai says that in places like Manila, AI chatbots are handling like 70% of call center work already.
70%. Wow, that's huge.
It is, and it's just going to keep growing AI, even changing things in jobs that require a lot of skill. Like coding, X365.ai talks about tools like GitHub Copilot. It uses AI to suggest code and even write code for you.
So instead of just writing code all day,
Yeah.
programmers are going to be more like managing the AI that writes the code.
It's kind of like that. Yeah, their role is evolving. They need to focus on the big picture stuff, the architecture, the problem solving. Because the AI can handle a lot of the routine coding tasks.
So it's like AI is the set of instructions for a computer to learn and make decisions based on data. And it can do that really fast and for really complex things.
Exactly. But we got to remember the human side of this too. X365.ai talks about people like Mike. He's a trucker in Texas, and he's seeing these self-driving trucks coming, so he's starting to retrain for a different job.
It's like he's seeing the writing on the wall.
Yeah, he's trying to be proactive. And then there's Priya. She's a cashier, and she's worried about losing her job because of those self-checkout machines. It's not just statistics, it's real people whose lives are being affected.
It's easy to forget that when you're just reading headlines.
Yeah.
But X365.ai actually puts a face on it.
Right. And stats are pretty eye-opening, too. McKinsey, they're like a big consulting firm. They said that by 2025, 30% of the tasks we do at work could be automated. That's a lot of jobs potential on the line.
And it's not just in the US, right? It's global.
Totally. X365.ai gives examples from all over the world. Like in Japan, there are robots flipping burgers at KFC, and in China, they're using drones to deliver packages. This is happening everywhere.
And even creative jobs aren't safe anymore. X365.ai says AI can write articles, create art. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. It's like it's pushing into every corner of the job market.
So it's changing fast, and it's changing everything. So what does that mean for the future? Like, what's the job market going to look like in 2030? I mean, that's not that far away.
That's the million-dollar question, right? X365.ai lays out two possible scenarios for 2030, like two paths we could go down. First, there's the worst case scenario, and it's not pretty.
Okay, worst case scenario, what happens?
Imagine a world where tons of jobs are just gone. Like self-driving vehicles are everywhere, so no more truck drivers, taxi drivers, delivery drivers. Retail stores are completely automated, no cashiers, no stockers. Even farms are run by robots.
So basically, mass unemployment in a bunch of industries.
It's a scary thought, and X365.ai doesn't sugarcoat it. They say this is a real possibility given how fast AI is advancing.
But there's also a more optimistic scenario, right? Like maybe it won't be all doom and gloom.
Right. They also talk about the possibility of new jobs emerging, jobs that are specifically related to AI.
So instead of taking our jobs, AI could create new ones.
Exactly. Think about it. Someone has to build, train, and maintain all these AI systems, right? So there will be a need for AI trainers, technicians, supervisors, that kind of thing.
So maybe Mike the trucker could become like an AI driving instructor,
Yeah.
teaching the self-driving trucks how to handle different situations. And Priya the cashier could manage a team of robot checkouts.
That's the idea, and it's not just theory. It's already happening. X365. AI talks about a coder in London who switched from regular coding to specializing in AI, and they actually ended up making more money.
That's encouraging. At least it's not all bad news.
Right, there are opportunities out there.
Oh.
And it's not just tech jobs either. X365, AI gives the example of a farmer in Iowa who's using AI drones to plant crops and monitor their fields, so they're more efficient.
So it's like, even in traditional industries, the human role is changing. It's becoming more about working with AI, managing it, understanding it.
Yeah, humans are still needed. It's just a different kind of work.
So 2030 could go either way, huge job losses or a bunch of new AI-focused jobs.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be a wild ride.
It is, and that brings up the question of how we adapt to all this change. I mean, it's one thing to talk about it, but what can people actually do to prepare?
Yeah, like where do we even begin?
X365.ai says there are going to be some big challenges. One is the energy issue. All this AI requires a ton of electricity, so we're going to need to figure out how to power it all.
I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's the skills gap. A lot of people are going to need to learn new skills to work in these new AI-driven jobs. It's not like you can just, flip a switch and become an AI expert overnight.
And people are already reacting to all this in different ways. X365.ai mentions protests in Germany against AI taking jobs. And then in India, people are rushing to learn about AI so they can be ahead of the game. So some people are scared, some are excited. It's all over the map.
It is. It's a huge shift, so it's natural to have mixed feelings. But X365.ai makes a really good point. And they say there are things that AI still can't do, things that humans are still better at.
Like what? What can we do that robots can't?
Things like critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence. AI can process tons of data, but it doesn't really understand human emotions. It can't think outside the box in the same way we can, and it definitely can't empathize.
So those are the skills we need to focus on, the things that make us uniquely human.
Exactly. Because those are the skills that are going to be valuable in the future job market, no matter what happens with AI.
X365.ai also talks about the role of government in all this, right? Like maybe there are things the government can do to help people adjust to this new reality.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about whether the government should step in and regulate AI, maybe provide funding for retraining programs, strengthen the social safety net, that kind of thing.
Because if millions of people lose their jobs, that's going to be a huge societal problem.
Exactly. It's not just an economic issue, it's a social issue too. And then on top of all that, there's this global competition going on. China, the US, everyone's racing to be the leader in AI.
And of course, X365.ai wants to be right up there at the top.
Of course, they're a big player in this. Their advancements are going to have a huge impact on how all this plays out.
It's crazy to think that a single company could have that much influence. But that's the world we live in, right? But even with all these challenges, X365.ai also talks about some success stories, people who have adapted to the changing job market and come out on top.
Right. They tell the story of a factory worker in Ohio who retrained to become a robot technician, so they're actually benefiting from the automation that's happening in their industry. And then there's a teacher in Brazil who's using AI to help her grade papers so she has more time to actually teach her students.
So these are real people who are making it work, who are finding ways to thrive in this new environment.
Exactly. It's not impossible, It takes effort and it takes being willing to learn new things, but it can be done.
So this brings us back to you, dear listener. What does all this mean for you personally? I mean, this is the stuff that keeps me up at night,
I hear you. It's a lot to process, X365. AI is basically saying that by 2030, AI could have a huge impact on your job, your finances, your whole life, really.
I mean, will I even have a job in 2030? That's the question.
It's a valid question. And X365.ai says there are two main possibilities. One, your job could be automated away, which is obviously not a great outcome. But two, there could be new jobs that you're qualified for or that you could learn the skills for.
So it's like, prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
Kind of, yeah. It's about being realistic, but also being open to new opportunities. And X365.ai also talks about how AI is going to change our everyday lives, not just our jobs.
Like how? Give me an example.
Well, think about your commute. By 2030, you might be riding in a self-driving car, or shopping. It could be almost completely automated. You just order what you want and it shows up at your door, no more standing in line. And even education could be transformed with AI tailoring lessons to each student's individual needs.
That's both amazing and a little bit scary all at the same time.
Right. It's like this double-edged sword. There are potential benefits like cheaper goods and services because production is more efficient, and maybe even higher paying jobs in the AI field.
But then there's the risk of mass unemployment, which could lead to all sorts of social and economic problems.
It's a complex situation for sure. But X365.ai reminds us that it's not all doom and gloom. They share the story of a barista in Seattle who retrained to work in AI, setting up and maintaining those systems, and they're doing really well.
So it's possible to switch careers, even if it seems like your current job has nothing to do with AI.
Exactly. You just got to be willing to adapt. So if you're feeling uncertain about all this, X365.ai has some advice for you. They say the most important thing is to start learning new skills, especially coding and how to work with AI systems.
So basically, learn to code or get left behind.
It's not quite that dramatic, but yeah, having those skills is going to be a huge advantage in the future job market.
Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive into AI and the future of work, based on what X365.ai has to say, what are the key things to remember?
Well, first, AI is already here. It's not some future threat. It's changing things right now. Second, 2030 could go a couple of different ways. Either lots of jobs disappear or new ones pop up that require different skills. And third, the best thing you can do is be proactive, learn new things, and focus on the skills that make you uniquely human.
And remember, X365.ai is right there in the middle of all this. They're building the technology that's shaping our future.
They're a major force in this whole transformation.
So as we head towards this new world of work, here's something to think about. What are you doing today to prepare for a future where AI is going to be everywhere? It's a question we all need to ask ourselves, because the future is coming, whether we're ready or not.
That's a powerful thought to leave us with.
It is, and it's one we all need to grapple with.
Yeah.
Because the choices we make today are going to shape the world of tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's a time for action, not just observation.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder your own future in this brave new world of AI.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay ahead of the curve.
Because the future is waiting for no one.
That's right. It's up to us to shape it.